Welcome back to the Love and Context podcast. After three weeks,
Yeah, it's been a while.
it's been a little bit because you had a thing, and then I moved houses.
Yep.
Actually, we moved stuff from houses.
Yeah. We actually physically took Ben's house and lifted it up
Jacked it
and
up.
moved it to a new lot. But before we could put it on a new lot, we
You
had
had
to
take the existing
we had to-
house and move it to the previous
yeah.
lot.
So we actually had a house sitting in the middle of the road for about 2 weeks.
Yeah.
The cops weren't happy. I'm just joking.
Yeah,
That's all.
there's probably somebody who's like, they're like, no way, Spencer, I didn't even know you could do that.
I mean, you can.
Yeah, you shouldn't, because I mean it is a cement foundation
Yeah.
usually, or something like that.
Yeah.
But we're back and we're sprier
Sure.
than ever.
I don't know about you, man. It's been a long week.
It's been a long week. It's been a long week. Spencer works in education, and that's all you need to know that right now is not great.
Mm-hmm.
We are Life of Jesus, and we had just gotten done where Jesus laid the smackdown on the religious leaders for a while, and he says, hey, by the way, y'all have judgment coming because you're supposed to be doing some things, and you're not.
Yeah.
And so then he gave them the woes. Then when they were in the garden, he says, guys, will you pray with me? And then they keep falling asleep. And then he's like, who are you looking for? And Peter chops off a guy's ear. Yeah. So that's where we are. Now they're going, and it's going to be the trial of Jesus. And we're going to talk about three different things. The first thing we're going to do is actually just walk through what happens in the trials of Jesus, because there's three different places he ends up going. And then we're going to come back and talk about really that it's not actually so much that Jesus is on trial. It's very clear that he's actually putting them on trial and then choosing to step in for them, right?
Yeah.
So I have some notes here, so I'll kind of just walk through this. So the first thing that happens is they arrest him, and there's an initial hearing at night. So Jesus is arrested at Gethsemane. That's what we talked about in the last episode. He is first taken to Annas, and that's referenced in John 18:12 through 24. He's the former high priest. He's an influential person, so think of it like a private court, maybe.
Yeah.
Right? Then he is taken to Caiaphas, who is the current high priest, and the council. That's talked about in Matthew 26 and Mark 14. Then the next day, he's taken to a trial before the Jewish leaders called the Sanhedrin.
Yeah.
They seek to justify their condemnation of him. They bring false witnesses who don't agree. That's actually referenced in Mark 14. And then the high priest presses Jesus directly, are you the Christ, the Son of God, Son of the Blessed, Mark 14, 61. Jesus then answers him, and he says, yep. Actually, what he says is, I am, and you will see the Son of Man and at the right hand of power, right? Not surprisingly, he goes, blasphemy, right?
Yep.
This is going to be their charge, and according to Jewish law, this blasphemy charge is serviceable by death in their judgment. And then they go and they start abusing and mocking him, spitting at him, all those type of things going on in Mark 14:65. Okay, so this is what's happened up to this point. And I'm just going to go ahead and just do the full narrative. We're going to come back to this in a minute because there's so many things I want to talk about in here. Then the morning council hands off to Rome. Their formal morning decision is in Luke 22, and they move it into official action. They bring Jesus to Pilate because Rome is actually the one who controls execution.
Yeah.
You can declare somebody to be put to death, but they don't actually get to put people to death. By the way, which is interesting with the woman caught in adultery because he wants him to throw a stone, right? So then there is this trial before Pilate, who's the Roman governor. And then when they bring him to him, now remember, what was the charge? Blasphemy. And then they come to him and they say, well, he's perverting the nation, forbidding tribute. He is claiming to be a king, right? This is in Luke 23:2. Funny how the charge suddenly changed, right? So Pilate then interrogates him, and in all four Gospels, he asks him this question, are you the king of the Jews? I just think that's interesting. All four Gospels remember that. Yeah. And Pilate repeatedly signals, he's like, I don't see anything that's guilty, right? It says it in Luke, it says it in John. So he sends him to Herod Antipas, right? Because Jesus is a Galilean, he's like, well, maybe Herod will deal with this, and I don't have to do anything.
Yeah.
Herod is like, yes, you come here. I've heard about all the signs and wonders you do. And Jesus put on a magic show. And Jesus is largely just doesn't say anything. And Herod is very disappointed because he's like, Chris Angel was coming and I didn't get to see it, right? Then Herod mocks, dresses him up, and sends him back. This is the whole dress as a king of the Jews thing, right? Because Herod wanted a show. Jesus didn't give it to him, so he mocks him.
Yeah.
Then he comes back to Pilate. Pilate tries to release Jesus, which is there's a custom political pressure, but the crowd says we want Barabbas instead, who, by the way, is a domestic terrorist
Yeah.
for them. Jesus is condemned. Pilate caves to their pressure, and the outcome then is that Jesus is delivered to crucifixion.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the process of what's happening here. There's a lot to unpack in there, but this is essentially the trial. So I want to take a look at a few things going on here. When we were talking about this and getting ready for it, we kind of talked about how, yes, Jesus is on trial, but it's very clear that Jesus is in control of the entire situation.
Yeah.
And which is very important because like people are like, oh, well, he was beaten and crucified. Yeah, because he chose to be. Mm-hmm. At any point, he could have called in angels, and it wouldn't have been a problem.
And if you're like, he could have called in angels, it's like, yes, he actually says that.
Yeah.
Is that Luke's account?
It's when he's talking to Peter because Peter's like, he's like, dude, we don't need the swords.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Do you not think that right now the Father wouldn't send somebody to protect me if I asked him?
Yeah.
But per his conversation, that's not what you want to do.
Yeah. Yeah. I can't remember exactly what account it's in right now, but he's like, dude, like, if I don't want to do this, I don't have to do this.
Yeah.
Right.
So first thing that happens, let's talk about the Sanhedrin on trial, because we'll talk about them bringing him at night in a minute because they broke a lot of legal code, their own Jewish legal code, to do those things, to try him. But just talking about him putting them on trial, the Sanhedrin and the religious leaders, they were really frustrated with Jesus in general.
Yeah.
Because they were they feared losing control of the people. They feared theological authority, like, in other words, people are going to be listening to Jesus and not them. This fragile peace with Rome, it's referenced a couple of times. They're like, is he going to upset the apple cart and get Rome mad at us? But more specifically, they're trying to protect the institution and their context, even if it means injustice. And it's very clear when Jesus comes and confronts them that he's dealing with exactly that.
Yeah.
Because if you remember last 4 episodes, he's been talking about that, right? He's been talking about, he's like, you were supposed to be in charge. You were supposed to be. They sit in Moses' seat. So listen to them and do what they say, but do not do what they do because they are not great.
Yeah.
So then Jesus, but he refuses in this conversation, he refuses to really play their narrative, and his confession ultimately forces a choice. Is he who he says he is? If he is, you have to accept it, and if he's not, you have to double down on your duplicity, right? The irony is they claim to defend God's honor while violating God's justice. Ouch.
Yeah. And the other thing is you have to realize how weak their case is, right? It actually, Scripture will tell you that they actually brought in people to give false testimony against him.
Yeah.
And so they know what they want to do, and they are trying to figure out how to get that.
Prior to false testimony, it says they gathered together to see if they could find evidence to kill him. Like, you're not supposed to bring a case with the express purpose of trying to kill somebody, right?
Yeah. Right. And so, but they couldn't. So they're like, okay, now we're going to bring false testimony, and we're going to bring false witness. And so that way we have a case, even though it's not a true one, even though it's not real, even though we are breaking so many of our legal codes and structures that we have set up, right?
Yeah.
Right. We are going to make sure this man dies.
Yeah. The ironic thing is this behavior is not super abnormal even inside the church.
No.
There are times that people, and tongue-in-cheek, I'm going to say this, sacrifice one person for the good of the organization, right?
Which, by the way, is not biblical.
Yeah, it's not biblical, unless you're the person who chooses to sacrifice yourself on behalf of other people.
Yes.
That is absolutely biblical. But we scapegoat people, or we say, well, this person is the problem, and all the chaos that's in this organization is because of this one person. I have been in a lot of organizations and in a lot of relationships with a lot of different people. If there is chaos, it is rarely caused by one person.
Yeah.
There's a communal aspect to it. And rather than dealing with the actual problems, they frequently people will just be like, hey, we want to push past this. And it's just very common in religious, to try to protect what we think we should be protecting while at the same time we're actually sacrificing what we should be protecting.
Well, I would say that's common outside of religious practice too, right?
Yeah.
Right, because you actually see that in Pilate.
Yeah.
Right, because Pilate, in case you don't know the history of Pilate, Pilate's on pretty thin ice with the Roman government right now. Like he's, and I'm not going to go into great detail on that because we could spend the rest of the episode talking about how Pilate's, how he got to where he is right now.
Yeah.
You you are capable of typing on your keyboard and doing a little bit of research to figure that out.
Yeah.
Okay. But he's on thin ice with the Roman government, so he has to tread lightly in this scenario.
There's just been reoccurring problems in that region because Jewish people do not like being ruled over.
Yeah.
Right. Well, to be fair, most people don't, but they are difficult.
Yeah.
A stubborn and stiff-necked people is how they describe themselves.
Yeah. Yeah. So when they bring Jesus to Pilate, it's actually really one of the really interesting things about this, and I'm jumping ahead a little bit, is that Pilate's wife actually has a vision and is like, don't do this.
Yeah.
And so Pilate is, as you're reading the text, he's treading very lightly.
Well, and it talks about in John, he sees him as this could be potentially a revolutionary problem. If I don't handle this right, people might rise up and I might have another issue where I got to call in the army. Right?
Yeah.
And he doesn't want to do that.
Yeah. So just know Pilate is the one that's handling it, but he's also like, there's this tension of, okay, I don't want rebellion, but also like, I don't want to mess up again because that's not going to be good for me.
Right. Well, and so with the Sanhedrin, Jesus brings truth, but they don't want to acknowledge who he is. Pilate, he sees truth, but he values stability, career, crowd management more than truth, right? In fact, I would say he kind of embodies the idea of like, hey, I find no guilt, but I'm going to punish you anyways, right? The question Pilate answers with his actions is, what is truth worth when it costs you political capital? Apparently a man's life, right? And it's all well and good when he says, man, I'm going to wash my hands of this and the blood is going to be on you, and the Jews accept that. The crowd accepts it, and they say, yeah, when the blood be on us and our ancestors. Pilate's still ultimately the guy responsible, right?
Well, and Pilate does everything he can to get Jesus out of this.
Including sending him to Herod, which is the part we talked about.
Yep. Sending him to Herod. Then he comes back to Pilate, and then Pilate's like, I don't find any guilt in this man. They're like, kill him anyways. And he's like, well, how about this? Would you rather have Barabbas?
Yeah.
Or would you rather have Jesus? By the way, Jesus has healed people. He's fed people. He's done no violence or anything like that. Barabbas has led riots. He's killed people. Like
gotten people killed?
Yeah, or gotten people killed. Like two polar opposites, right? And I can just imagine Pilate being like, okay, if I present these two options, clearly they're going to pick Jesus, right?
And they're like, nah.
They're like, no, we'll take Barabbas.
We'll take Barabbas. Yeah. It's well, and I want to we talked about how he's trying to do everything. So I want to talk about Herod really quick because Pilate's not willing to engage truth because it's going to cost him political capital. Herod wants to be entertained, right? This is you kind of get the idea like throughout the gospel, but like Herod, he wants to see the stuff, and he wants Jesus, but he wants truth, but he wants it on his own terms and for his entertainment. Feel like I might be talking about some things that kind of go on today in our spheres, right?
Yeah.
And but Jesus is not a person. He's not a vending machine. He's not performing on demand. God is not a vending machine, right? And his silence exposes Herod's emptiness. There's no justice. There's no pursuit of truth. It's only amusement and contempt. Guys, I'm just going to say that if your church is only full of amusement and contempt, you're following somebody. It ain't Jesus.
Yeah.
Right? It's like following Jesus is going to make you look like Jesus, which means that you'll speak truth in love with connection for the purpose of building somebody up to be a better person, right? And it's going to be a place of love and joy and peace and bringing the kingdom of God to earth. If you're only there to be amused and complain, I think you might be serving at the church of Herod, right? That's an overstatement.
I had a conversation with some young people. This was 10 years ago. Now and
hey, 10 years ago you were a young person.
Yeah, ish, yeah. But they were talking. I was like, what are you looking for in a church? And like they were all talking like we want nice lights, we want good atmosphere, good music, comfy chairs, and they like listed all these things. And so then they got done listing it, and I just asked the simple question. I was like, okay, like what about a church that loves Jesus and loves the broken? And they're like, oh yeah, that would be good too. Yeah. And I was like, just so you know, that should be the first thing you're looking for.
Yeah.
Right? Like
or at least in your first shaping. Right?
Yeah. Like you should be looking for that. And if the church happens to have good lights, good music,
Yeah.
Comfy chairs alongside that, great.
You might quote Jesus that says, "You should have done the latter without neglecting the former."
Right.
Right? It's okay to have nice lights and have good music and have engaging preaching.
I mean, we just updated our sound system
Yeah.
like a year ago, right?
Yeah, and and it's good, but if it comes at the behest of loving a broken world, of actually being the people who stand in the crossroads of the world and put on a different story,
Yeah.
man, so we kind of danced around it a little bit in the Sanhedrin conversation, but they kind of break their own rules. So there's the Gospels clearly portray a rushed, irregular, unjust process, right? So I'm going to give it a couple of categories here because I want to talk about things that are explicitly shown in the Gospels, some things that are heavily implied, and some things to think about. And it's based on what we actually have for information. One of the first things is, we talked about this, is they had a predetermined outcome. Okay? Mark 14:55 says they are seeking testimony to put him to death. This is a predetermined outcome. That is not how the Torah, you guys sat with us through Torah. That is not how the Torah is made out to be. Not for a predetermined outcome. It's meant to correct people and bring them back to the path.
Yeah.
Right? You talked about this. False and inconsistent testimony. Like, they have the trial, they bring the people in, and they're like, dude, you guys, did you even check your stories? Right? What is it, Deuteronomy, where it talks about 3 witnesses?
Yes.
I believe it's in Deuteronomy.
Yeah. If it's not, write to us, and we will correct that.
Yeah. The high priest, we talked about this, has pressure tactics. He has leading questions, right? Leading him to a question that he's going to answer in a way that's going to be kind of a gotcha moment.
Yeah.
Right? That's problematic. Mark 14:61, where he's like, well, are you this specific thing that I can claim blasphemy for? Right?
And Jesus is like, yeah.
Yeah, that's me. And you know what's definitely not part of that process? Also, violence and mocking the person who's being paraded out of there, right? Like, that's definitely not part of the process. I've read a lot of Torah. You know where it's not? In there. And then I did point this one out, is that they actually change the accusation when they get to Pilate. So it was blasphemy, theological claim, but when they get to Rome, it's like, oh, he's a political insurrectionist claiming to be a king.
There's a shift in language, right?
Yeah.
Right. Okay. We're speaking on Jewish terms, Jewish terminology. Then we get to Rome, and Rome has a totally different political structure.
Yeah.
Right. So they're like, okay, we need to try to speak into that political structure. So Pilate actually takes us on.
Yeah.
Right. He claims to be king and an insurrectionist. Right. And as soon as, if they know in the history of Pilate being like, he wants to cause insurrection, Pilate would, at that point, have no choice but to take it on.
Right. So the next ones are procedural irregularities that are often noted by scholars. Though they come to arrest him at night. He actually says to them, he's like, you knew where I was during the day. Why are you here right now?
Jesus is actually quoting the process back to them.
Correct. Yeah. It's like, you guys don't know where I am during the day. Why would you come at night? Especially night of the Sabbath, right? What are you doing here? Like, we just had our meal. What are you doing? And
and armed, right?
Yeah. And armed. Yeah. And it's not Romans that come to get him. It's the people from the Jewish council. Not to mention, they do it quickly. So we talked about death, burial, resurrection of Jesus taking place. He's crucified and then rises 3 days later. This process is, he's arrested at night and the next day he's put to death. Right? Later Jewish legal tradition emphasizes caution in capital cases, and they have to have multiple witnesses, and there needs to be careful deliberation. You and I are going to talk about this Sunday because we're going to be preaching on Leviticus, but very frequently in Leviticus, they talk about taking somebody out and stoning them. They talk about putting them to death, but this is also ancient codal language, and it means that there are firm boundaries on these types of rules. But if you actually read in Jewish historic documents, they would say that it's very rare that they would actually put somebody to death. But it is a very firm thing, and they might be exiled, they might be kicked out of the family, some things like that, but it's very rare that they would actually put somebody to death. But that's how ancient codes are written. So they arrest and kill within 1 day. Very, very irregular. This is very, very strange.
Yeah.
And then a number of scholars, N.T. Wright specifically, note that when the high priest tears his cloak because of the blasphemy, it's kind of a piece of dramatic flair, right? It's just very, 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 very dramatic. At minimum, the Gospels emphasize a collapse of integrity in the court that claims to represent God. And I think even like just a cursory reading, listeners, if you're just reading that, you probably know, right? You're reading that, you're like, this all seems kind of sketchy. I mean, I know that we have our legal system of America, but you're like arrested and then killed the next day. Come on.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, if you're like, well, how exactly should trials work? We went over that a little bit. You can type on your keyboard and like look that up from a Jewish context back in the day. But it was supposed to be a deliberate process, and putting someone to death actually wasn't the go-to move in most cases. Blasphemy technically was, right? But they actually, in Torah, there's a call to set up sanctuary cities, right?
People to flee. Yep.
For people to flee and have safe harbor. There's a call for restitution every 7 years. Like if you're paying off a debt, that's every 7 years that debt is gone and you have a fresh start, right? There's all these calls that value the person.
Well, and even
right?
the other laws are meant to always bring people back to God. It's all about restorative. And we read them now, and we're like, oh, man, they are harsh. They are meant to be cutting people off. Like, you better obey or else. No, they're actually directly opposed to that. They're like, God wants you back. These are firm guidelines, but we need you back.
And if you're like Torah is merciful, it's like,
oh, yeah.
Yes, it is, because God's merciful. And you also can tell that it's merciful if you just go read the legal proceedings of the Amalekites.
Or the Egyptians, the Code of Hammurabi, right? You go start reading some of those things, and you're like, oh, this is what the Bible is pushing against.
Yeah. So
yeah, it's very dramatically different.
Yeah. So with that said, you have kind of the Sadducees and everyone in play here. They're kind of slipping into this, like, okay, we want this person dead. What do we have to do, even if it's corrupt, to make it happen?
Right. The system that's supposed to be about justice is anything but. So John specifically, when he's writing about this, really talks about how Jesus is controlling the situation. John 18 kind of references this going on. He answers in a way that reveals heart. And when he's with the Sanhedrin, he's like, do you actually want truth? Right? Or do you want a verdict? Pilate, do you actually want truth or do you want safety? Herod, do you want God or do you want entertainment?
Yeah.
Right? And they stand with a real judgment, like, because when you get done with each of these groups, there's really a judgment. It's like the Sanhedrin is religion without justice, right? Pilate is power without courage. Herod is curiosity without repentance, right? Without actually wanting to be a part of it. Yet Jesus goes to the cross anyway.
Yeah.
Like, for them and for us. All three of them are guilty of their own things. And Jesus still goes willingly, even though he could call the angels at any point. And he willingly confronts the powers and the principalities, as Paul's going to talk about it. The powers of religion, institution, the political institutions, and like the regional institutions. Like, he confronts their power and is like, nah, bro, it's going to be different. And all of y'all are messed up, but I'm still going to go there for you.
We're gonna get some stuff sent in on this one. But
care of Spencer McDowell at Love and Context Podcast.
Send it to Spencer McDowell at Love and Context Podcast, because that will get bounced right back to you.
I have no idea where that would go.
I don't either. But it's also important to note that Jesus didn't want to do this. Yeah. Like, he did it because he loves us, right? But you have in the garden where he's like, Lord, take this cup from me. Yeah. Right? I don't want to do this.
Well, we talked about that.
Yeah, right?
He was like, I don't want to do this, but I know that you need this done.
Yeah. But I've heard in biblical teaching a lot of times, like, oh, Jesus wanted to go to the cross. I was like, yeah, no, he did it because he loves us.
I think it's more accurate to say Jesus wanted the result of going to the cross.
Exactly. Yeah.
But he did not want to go there.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
And because it's pretty clear he doesn't like it, he's dripping sweat that looks like blood.
Yeah. And I have conversations with students every day where I was like, hey, I know you don't want to be doing this right now, but every day, everybody has things they don't want to do. Yeah. Right? Every day we have things we don't want to do, and we have to be okay with that. And we still have to find a way to do that.
Yeah.
And I had one kid, like, what's one thing you do at your house that you don't want to do? I was like, clean the toilets, do the dishes,
There's a lot
laundry,
of things.
fix the siding, fix the floor, rip out drywall when I have to fix electrical issues. And I just rambled down this list.
Yeah, there's a lot of things you do in your house that you don't want to do, but you want at home.
Yeah. But that's the thing, is like, we have to realize that, hey, when we are reaching the lost, when we are going into places that into places where there's people who need Jesus, we might have to do some things we don't want to do.
Yeah.
Right.
I think there's also when we are reading these and because I encouraged us when we were listening to Jesus confronting the leadership, I think that we need to be careful and like say, hey, do any of these infiltrate us? Yeah. Right. Are we guilty of any of these things that we want to be entertained and we have contempt for things that don't do what we want them to do? Yeah. Right. There was 3 theological lenses that I kind of put here that I thought were really interesting that takes place in these trials. There's substitution and irony, right? In that the innocent is condemned so that the guilty can go free with Barabbas, right? And that the judge of the world, Jesus, the only one capable of judging the world, is then judged by the world. Yeah. Right? Yeah. There's also this kingdom of God clashing with the kingdom of man. Jesus' kingdom is not built by coercion. That's why both the religious and the political systems do not get him. Because both religious and political systems rely on coercion a lot of times. By the way, if you have to be convinced to follow God, it's problematic. You shouldn't have to convince people to follow Jesus. Like, there is an invitation. But you have to be willing to lay your life down. Yeah. Right? And then the last one is this motif of truth. It comes up very frequently in this conversation. Jesus says, I came to bear witness to the truth. And Pilate's like, what is truth? And then goes and promptly ignores it. Right? Claiming to want truth, but when truth is staring you in the face, you're like,
it's not the truth I want.
It's not the truth I want. Right. It's not speaking my truth. Right. Yeah.
Side note: if you want a good little listen on Jesus and Barabbas, Judah Smith does a really good sermon. This was 15, 20 years ago, but still really good.
I'll see if I can find it and throw it in the show notes. If it's not there, you know that I didn't find it.
You should be able to find it on YouTube pretty easily. But yeah, that was.
I think I wanted to just slow down and just really understand what was going on here, because Jesus later when Paul is talking in Ephesians and other books and he's talking about the powers and the principalities, this is what's going on right now. It's not actually people that Jesus is warring with. Yeah, he's warring against the powers behind the people. Yeah. And he's overcoming each one of them, ultimately going to his coronation, which we're going to talk about next week, which happens on the cross. 2 weeks on the crucifixion and 1 week on the resurrection. Yeah. And just talking about those, we may even talk about some of the things that people say are in the text or not in the text, but are definitely there. But we're going to...
People do that.
Yeah, they do that sometimes. We're going to talk about like the crucifixion itself and what's going on in that process. But then I think the second week, you and I talked about just talking about what is the sermon that Jesus preaches from the cross. And we're going to actually go and we're going to pull out what he's actually preaching to them while he's sitting there dying. Yeah. Because it's pretty cool. Yeah.
Well,
I was like staring you down. You're like, which of us is going to say it?
I got it. Yeah. I got it. There is a lot to dissect in what we just covered. Yeah. So this just, if you want to dive deeper into just his trial, please do. We just kind of skipped a stone on it. There's a lot more going on. Yeah. And please dive deeper into that. But we're just going to let you take what you want to take from that. Yeah. All right. So we look forward to next time.
Bye.